Hey guys, what's up? This is Shimo here. Since I realized that as of recently, I actually have every single force mod for Comet Crusader, I thought I would do a little bit of a guide and tips for each one for how it works and how you would want to use it. So, for the very first one, we'll start with the first three of Leap, Land Demo, and Wonderwall. So, when it comes to Leap, what the force will do is that it allows you to leap multiple times in succession. So when you cast Leap, it doesn't consume it yet, and you can do multiple leaps that will cost 70% of the original leap, up to 5 times within 7 seconds. So you can see it goes up and cooldown because it took too long. But yeah, if I keep leaping, I can leap multiple times and it costs less mana than the original leap. So you can potentially just use it, then run around, and then use it again. But personally, I find this leap to be really good in PvE when it comes to grouping up mobs because of the weird suction black hole that it has when added a long time ago when Leap didn't have that at first. But with it, it makes it a really good grouping skill. I see some people use it in PvP as well if they want the multiple leaps, but personally, I do not like using this in PvP because the unmodded leap makes it so therefore when you use it, if you don't like the situation you're in, if you press it again, you automatically do a backblast without backblast doing on cooldown. So you can potentially do this to like feint people and stuff like that. I was actually called a hacker once in PvP because I did a double backblast to bait someone and they thought I was cooldown hacking. So that's pretty funny. The next one I'm going to talk about is the Land Demo Earthquake. So the original Land Demo is when you use it, it will create a trail that allows explosions that will hit, and every time it hits a new target, that new target will get the initial hit damage from it, which is the explosion damage. The chain explosions will then hit afterwards, and it does follow a path. However, the modded one basically does slightly less damage as an initial, but yet the chain explosions are in place. So this is good for like targets that don't move but are in like the center of the map, or people that you want to get trapped in there. For when you're actually trapped in there, it will pull you in. However, in PvP, if you mana break, you can actually get out of it. The suction doesn't stick on you. The suction only happens when you get hit by the chain explosions. Personally, I like using this one for targets like Drbaki, for he just stands still, or any other certain things that involve grouping, keeping stuff together. The unmodded one is really good for clear. But the only thing that isn't different about them is the buff damage that you get afterwards. Those are still the same amount of damage, so pretty much just figure out what kind of preference you would want for those. Okay, the next mod that we got is Wonderwall, which the original Wonderwall, when you cast it, gives you a defensive shield that absorbs 50% of the damage. This is an absorption. This isn't like reduced damage or any type of defense increase. This means that any damage that you take based off your current defenses, or if it ignores defenses, it will absorb 50% of that type of damage. And the shield HP for this one is basically for your entire HP pool for 30 seconds. In PvP, it is 10 seconds, and only 33% of your HP. So when you cast Wonderwall on you, it will have the initial hit that will do a decent chunk of damage and pretty much give you a little bit of defense. However, the modded one costs more MP. It has half of the HP pool of the other one, but it will create an explosion when the shield is recasted, broken, or time runs out. Same duration. Personally, I like the modded one more, although it costs a little bit more mana. The damage dealt from the explosion is really good, especially in party play, from doing more damage. Shield durability, it doesn't matter if you're just going to keep using the skill, but the damage dealt from the explosion is really good. Especially in PvP, for it creates a really high launch up. Oh, that's not... Yeah, my bad. But it will create a very long, high launcher. I do too much damage. It will create a really high launch up on caster when breaking, so it can be good for getting you out of situations or getting you catches if you remember how it works. Especially with it doing decent amount of damage with the heavy trait. And if you're just going to be spamming Wonderwall on people anyway, since in dungeons you want to try and defend people, it's a really good way of doing it. However, if your team is already decently geared and doesn't need that extra type of damage, just go to the basic Wonderwall, just help them out. Okay, so from after that first 3, there are now the extra 2 that came afterwards, which were Burst Wolf and Calbog Pain. Burst Wolf originally is supposed to be a skill that transfers debuff on the initial hit when it comes out. So if you have debuffs on you or anyone else, it will transfer the debuffs, but it'll only transfer whoever is closest to you and a certain limitation of debuffs. So it'll only transfer 4 debuffs and will actually, no matter the range. However, this is a bit buggy in party play for how the peer-to-peer connection works. Sometimes because of the animation speed of the skill, it doesn't register on the other person's connection, so therefore their debuff won't transfer. However, this is a good way of confirming that your debuff will transfer. This is good for dungeons like 12-8, which every time you use a skill, you get a debuff that keeps scaling up to lower your MP. So therefore, if you use this and it connects, it will transfer that debuff, and sometimes the other person if the connection is nice enough. Or in the Vanamir raids, for if you pay attention to the boss patterns and you get hit by, like, let's say the fire debuff or the 12-6 debuff that starts in the first phase that decreases physical and magical attack, you can transfer those debuffs back, but you have to pay attention to the target, because if they're in hyper frames, which are those purple super armor frames, the debuff will not transfer, for the target cannot be debuffed. That hyper frame is a cleanse along with debuff immunity, so you gotta pay a little bit more of attention to doing so. However, the mod changes the skill completely, where then it becomes a slam downwards when only castable in the air. Now, this is a multi-hit, and it will create a fear debuff similar to Pandemonium's, but the damage is a lot smaller. So you can see here that was basically 1.2k, and then if I Pandemonium and press C, this is much higher. Some interesting interactions though is Pandemonium, the fear debuff goes off of whatever was last used, so if your Pandemonium will last like 8 seconds and this will only last 4 seconds, once you count down like the cooldown on this and you realize, oh, I want to try and make it longer, you can use that. Although you could just get the trait that allows Pandemonium to become 12 seconds. Personally, I feel like that Burst Wolf should be a bit more tweaked, because this also goes the other way, where if I Burst Wolf, wait a bit, and then Pandemonium, it will go all for the Burst Wolf Fear debuff, and for that 8 seconds, or 12 seconds, so just be careful when you use that. Personally, I find Burst Wolf to be more, the modded one, to be more of a PvP kind of skill, for, it gives pretty decent freeze frames. The silence is kind of nice, and being able to use it in the air is, for a really cheap mana cost, is pretty good. So like if I was good, that would actually be a pretty easy catch. So there is that. Personally though, I like using the unmodded one a lot more. This one's just a lot of fun, just if you want to have another aerial button. But next let's go to Calbog Pain. So what Calbog Pain does is that it allows you to change it from a single hit to a multi-hit skill that will, each hit will ignore defenses. However, something interesting with this is that this mod actually works really well with his passive Guardian Force, which each shout will give a power or strike debuff, which lowers their physical and magical attack along with their physical and magical defense for 20 seconds. So like as this skill keeps going, it actually keeps ramping up the debuff. I can't really show it that well here for these mobs. Don't the stuff in free training don't really have defenses due to similar number values. But one of the cool things with it is that since you can just use this to keep up your debuff, it's a nice skill to have along with keeping up with like Pandemonium, so therefore you can get both of the debuffs up really fast. Or that's the main gimmick of the class for PvE. However, the unmodded one does have the effect of when there's a certain amount of debuffs on the target, it actually will create a Curse of Agony, which, however, has a weird interaction. As you just see there, its name and HP bar disappear, but with certain monsters, it actually will make them fade in and out of existence, which is very funny. But the only thing I can maybe kind of see with original Calbog Pain, it's faster in terms of getting that DPS out if you want like a fast AoE clear, unlike modded where you have to wait a bit. There is some interesting techniques that you can do with it, such as for PvP, due to the Curse of Agony, it actually is its own debuff, so if you stack a bunch of debuffs on the target, it will create multiple flinches in certain times, so therefore you can maybe try and catch off of those. So like, I'll explain one later in the video, but for now that's just mod Calbog Pain. And by later, I guess I mean now. Because we're going to talk about mod Land Smash. If you don't know, Land Smash is an active by Crusader that allows him to create a section on the ground that people cannot run on. The skill, however, actually can proc certain on-hit effects. So like, my Plague can actually proc off these if it wants to cooperate, like so. One of the ones that I figured out, though, that doesn't work for some reason is the Usurper title. If it's on purple, it won't actually create the debuff. The initial hit will, but the aura part will not. So like, let me just do it here. And then the purple aura will not go, which has the HP burn, but if I do a Z on him, it will. So that's something that I found fairly interesting with Land Smash. Now, what the modded one does is that it creates a path where it will actually launch afterwards. The second hit that pops out is actually what breaks their legs, so they can't not run for 6 seconds. Which is fairly good. It's a really high launch, and the hitbox is actually pretty high. If I can show you here. That hit him right there. So it's fairly good for like mind game setups for PvP. The only thing that I kind of do not like about it is that it does not follow its attack animation, and it halts your momentum. So if I were to use it like here, it has a little bit of a delay when the skill actually comes out. And a good way of showing that is if I were to use it and look the other way, it actually will now turn that way. Which could be an interesting technique, but it makes it very inconsistent considering how the original Land Smash one, it kept momentum and matched the animation. So like, it's not like I can just turn around with it like the other one. But yeah, those are two uses for it. Personally, the unmodded one is a lot of fun. I mainly like it in ones. In twos, though, it can have its uses, but due to its weird design, I do not like actually using it that much. And then the last mod that I'm going to be going through is mod Rage of Guardian. Now, normal Rage of Guardian is a pretty strong hitter that even has a pretty ridiculous hitbox. So like, let's see if I can get lucky with placing the hitbox. Come on. There we go. The skill actually has a pretty good downward hitbox, which then if people were to say jump or like mobs are below a platform, you can use this to get a pretty good hit. The speed passive from Comet Crusaders' third job scales up with it, making a really good fast skill, and it actually does a pretty good chunk of damage. However, the modded one pulls in targets, but before I show the pull range of it, it actually has a very small hitbox. So like, it will only hit within that center section right here. So like, even from there, it will not hit, but it can pull things. The pull physics, however, varies from mob to mob, which I'll show at the very end. But let's just show you some of the pull nonsense it can do. So like, how modded Rage of Guardian's range works is that where it is casted, which is a little bit in front of you, this is the center point, and then there is a huge, and I'm talking huge, circle around. That's why the pull range is better for him in front, is because that's where the circle starts. But, like I said, huge pull range. Pretty good for grouping, really good in twos. However, something to watch out for when using it is, watch out for super armor, for you will not pull targets in super armor. And be careful when the target is already dead, for it has an interesting interaction where if the target is already dead and you do it, it will actually pull them upwards, delaying their death, and it could cost you a couple matches. It almost costed me a couple matches. But yeah, no, that's pretty much mod Rage of Guardian. Preference for ones, I like the normal Rage of Guardian, just because it adds a lot more variety in terms of hits and comboing. This one's just a simple pull, which honestly makes it kind of dull, but in twos it's a very strong tool when used effectively. However, when comparing the damage between the two, the mod one actually does more damage in PvE, while the unmodded one actually does more damage in PvP. So that's something cool to know. I like using the modded Rage of Guardian for PvE, for grouping in certain sections, but again, like I said, when showing you the certain mobs, let me just explain it to you in the easiest way. Some mobs have interesting physics, for example. Oh, oops. So, like, when it comes to like mobs that are very heavy and don't really like being pushed or move, they won't really pull them that large. But then certain mobs will actually have a variety of physics, such as, for example, yeah. So that's something that you got to be careful when you use mod Rage of Guardian, is that you might just send things just flying straight into the air. Anyway, this is the end of the mod video. If I left any type of information or tips out of the mods, just let me know. I don't really talk that much about the mana refunds unless it is like a big part of the skill or very important. But yeah, see you guys next time.